Oh,
Free.
now we're free. Hello. So we're here in the FITZ in our stage with Alessandro Giaquinto and in this nice black box, which we're also going to talk about. And Alessandro is going to present a new piece, a solo, on the 16th of December in the framework of our format Shorties. So, and for today, we just try to dive in a little in the process of creating this show. And yeah, I'm really curious to get to know a bit more.
So am I.
So, maybe we start with the title of your new performance. It is called DERMA.
Yes.
And could you just tell a bit about why did you choose this title? What is it about?
Titles are always very difficult, I
Yes.
find. Then again, there was a very old story from Walter Erich Schäfer that he one day told Krenko, it doesn't matter what your piece is called, it can be called Puputu Pipiti or numbers as long as the piece is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I agree. So I kind of take some time usually to decide, and I like that the title is not always understandable on the first go. So you read it and you're not really sure what it means. So maybe you want to research about it, and that already, I think, brings you closer to not consumerism idea of art, but a more engaging process already from the start. Derma was the choice because the starting point of the whole piece was from a sentence that I read at the beginning of Philosophy of the Home from Emanuele Coccia, where the philosopher says that making a home is basically an extension of what we do when we're born. So we domesticate, we tame the world to make it become another part of our skin. And this idea of making the world around us, our home, the space we inhabit, in my case, I felt it's the same when I enter a studio to create something, or when I try to enter a new stage, like in this case, and I have to domesticate the stage to me in order to not feel lost in it. I try to make it an extension of myself, of my skin, so the audience can step into my skin. Um, and because the work then dives a lot into identity, I thought then specifically derma, it's the dermis, it's the lowest, like the deepest layer of the skin.
Yeah.
And we don't shed it. It doesn't change. Whereas the epidermis changes through life. And uh, even layer, there is another hypodermis, there is another layer, but it's not, it doesn't feel anything, that layer. And whereas the derma does feel it. It does feel things. It has the nervous system goes through it, the blood goes through it. And so it was a way to go closer to symbolism for identity, for who we are. And we say a lot, our skin, our skin. And that's probably the deepest layer I could connect to. As well as another reference is Ocean Vuong, and he starts his fabulous book with Dear Ma. And there I thought Der Ma was quite close and connected in a quite nice way.
Yeah. But you know, you're talking about how you adapt a space, but I think it's also interesting because it's like also in the reverse that the space you're working in, or the house you're living in, or the country is also kind of influencing your identity, right?
Exactly.
So it's more of an exchange of the two.
And this is also the interesting part, because that is always my ongoing question is who are we? How do we change? How do we interact with the world on a deeper level than just consuming it in any way? So yeah, the influence, the coming and going is also part of the process. I have some boxes on stage with me, quite many. And it's also the question for me then, can the boxes dance for me, or can they make me dance, and not just me guiding them, but them forcing me into a situation like life does.
And this is, I think, we are at the very core of the form of theater we are presenting here at the FITZ, because we call it Theater of Animated Forms. And it's just what you describe, is that it's not, usually we think the relationship between a subject and an object is me, I'm doing it, with the thing which doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And that's not true, as you said, because the space is doing something with me, and also the object, if you take it seriously as a partner, it influences what you are doing on stage. So I think that's a bit also of your part of your research, to see how this relationship works. Mm-hmm. And you're working with also space is for you a very important thing in your work, right?
Yes, I always try to avoid a frontal confrontation with the audience. I try to lure the audience in. So I always say to dancers when they perform or they're working on my work, I always say, imagine that when the curtain opens, it's just what the audience is allowed to see, like peeking through a window. Mm-hmm. But before and after, many things are still happening or have happened. We don't want to open the curtain and be like, so this is for you. Instead, it's the audience that watches, spies on something that's happening. Because I believe theater is not, it is offered to the audience, of course. Yeah. But the experience, I think, is already that of an offering. We don't need to blatantly obsess over it. Instead, we can let them look for something. Again, engage. The audience can look for something on the stage, see what they want to see, instead of being guided, like taken by the hand and be like, look over here, this is very nice, why don't you look over there? Instead, to have something is happening and you decide as an audience member, what do you take of this? That also maybe bears a deeper question, which kind of human are you in respect of what's happening?
And I think that's also interesting, because if you talk about immersive theater, because that's quite popular right now as a term, and I'm always asking myself, what is it? Immersive theater. And I think it's what you just described is also part of immersive theater, that you offer something which makes it possible for an audience to come in. Yes. And to connect, because I think that's really a very important thing. Yes. But everybody does it in his or her own manner. Absolutely. Because everybody is bringing an identity with it, him or her, when you are an audience. Yes. Which is also part of the performance.
Yes. And going back to the topic, actually, this is also a very interesting part, because the audience, the identity is rooted into where the performance takes place. Yeah. So the public that comes is, of course, belongs to a certain geographical area, most likely, which is where the theater is placed, where the stage is placed. So the stage is not an entity in its just fabrication of walls and floors and ceilings, but also in the fabrication of its society, which is not belonging to the theater, but somehow collateral to it. Yeah, it's like a field, of magnetic field, and what reacts to the presence of the theater. Yeah. It's deeply connected to its meaning and to what you bring to it then.
Which brings me to another question, because when we first met and we had a look at our space, it took some time until you decided that is a space or you wanted to work, and you always named it a black box.
Yes.
So it is a black box, evidently, but still you made quite a deliberate choice for working in a black box.
Yes.
And can you describe what made this interesting for you to work in? It's quite a small place. It doesn't have a specific identity as a theater place, but it's made for people to come in and with their creation. So what did it make attractive for you to work in this place?
I think limitations are always very attractive.
Okay.
So in a sense that
Yeah.
the ceiling is low, there are no spaces for me to exit. I have no escape here. And this is very interesting because then I become like the audience. I have no escape.
Yeah.
I cannot, usually in a performance, you can go into the wings and you're safe. No one is watching you.
Yeah.
In this case, I can technically, but I have limited. I cannot exit that way to go around and enter another space. So the mystery is less craft, like it's harder to craft the mystery of exiting and entering and this kind of playfulness we have in a standard theater environment. Besides that, the idea of a very clean black box is always very, very enticing because it's very hard, as simple as it sounds, to find a very clean black box in the theaters. There's always something still hanging. I come from my work with the ballet companies. There's always an opera set in the back that you cannot move. There's always something you cannot take out. Now here we have the limit of the walls, but beside the walls we can take out everything, and the walls are black. The walls are already the stage. This is very beautiful because the building is the stage then. We're not making a stage. So somehow it was very interesting, and then connecting also to the topic, I was thinking the black box, and I was working on the idea of using boxes as a constant moving, which is what Coccia describes in life, no?
Yeah.
So it's like a box with boxes in a box. It's like, also I was thinking about the identity. I mean, it sounds very funny, but funny is good, I believe. Sometimes we box ourselves in an identity, or we feel boxed in an identity by somebody else or by a group of people. So I thought all these limitations, all these blocks are interesting to work on, to work around. How do you make it alive, you know?
Yeah.
And in general, the form of a box can be very fascinating.
Because when I read, you have a creative diary where you describe a bit how you developed the piece and what the different phases were in the work. And it's also, this box is, I think it's very much linked to what you're creating, because if you have a box like this, it's something which protects you because it's so small and maybe cozy. And at the same time, you have the limitations. You can feel like I'm trapped.
Yes.
So, and when I read your diary, I had the idea that these were also motives you were working with in your creation work. Is that true?
Definitely. Also, this is an interesting process for me because I am alone for the very first time, completely alone in the studio. This is also a trapped situation.
Yeah.
I trap myself in the studio. So I trap myself inside another sort of box in order to make something. I thought all of this is a big metaphor in many ways of how we deal with life many times. And therefore, just like in life, sometimes you have ecstatic moments of happiness and realization, and other moments you're just questioning everything and wondering if there is any sense to any of what you're doing. This is not always easy, but it's a very cathartic experience, which is always good to motivate the work, I find. It's always a little bit a problem, I believe, to be like, yeah, but why are you doing it? Like, what's the point of doing this and not something else? So to go through this process makes it worth it, I believe.
So for you, you worked as a dancer in a company?
Yes.
At the Stuttgart Ballet. You worked as a choreographer with other dancers. And so this is really for you the first time that you're a choreographer, performer on your own?
Yes,
without anybody watching, or
yes. So I have danced my work in the
yeah.
past, but I always had at least one other dancer with me in the studio, or a pianist, or a ballet master,
Yeah.
or anybody, or I was just in the situation in a space where people would even just pass by. Now I find myself in studios where there is no living form. I mean, maybe there is a rat or a bird will fly across the window,
Yeah.
but there is no other living form inside the space but me. And this is sometimes very hard, because all the energy that flows in the room is mine. So some days you are maybe on low battery,
Yeah.
whether as a choreographer, as a performer, as a dramaturg, as a I don't know, as an artist, you might be on this low battery, but still there is something to do. So it's also like it's a good exercise also. It's a good exercise.
And of course, talking about the space and the objects, which can help you as a partner, but they need your energy. I mean,
Yes.
you know, they don't come like alive, or they don't act as partners
Yes.
if you don't make them to. So
Exactly.
this is also, of course, you're not alone in a way, but to energize your non-human partners
Yes.
takes energy
Yes.
again. So yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed it does. Yeah.
This is, yeah, I don't need my cards because I think these were all the questions. Yeah, the next, because this was the card short form solo, I just put that away. And I wanted to ask you, because I think that's also a very crucial part of your work as a choreographer as well as a dancer, to talk about time and memory. How important is the factor time in your work? How are you working with time on stage, for example?
For me is highly fundamental, time. And the game is to trick time, or rather to trick the audience into a certain perception of time, which is the one I want them to feel. So we said, I don't like to take the audience by the hand to guide them through the performance, but I do want to influence their experience, because that's what I'm in charge of, I believe, as an artist. Yeah, I'm in charge of the resonance my work has. I cannot control it, but I can work on a certain direction, and I can focus my energies on delivering a certain experience. And I think I cannot necessarily control whether the audience feels something or not. There's this beautiful interview of Louise Bourgeois where she says, I cannot explain it to you. If this doesn't tell anything to you, I don't know what to tell you. Which I found very compelling. I was like, yes, she's liberating me of finding reasons why things happen. I think time helps find that reason. It helps to make the audience feel like a moment is very long or a moment is very short, whether you want it to be a difficult moment, a light moment, an exploit, or something that's taking effort. And obviously the goal for me is always the audience to leave the theater and say, it was really too short, I wanted more. Whether it's 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, however long the format is, I always want them to be asking for more, not it being too much for them or overwhelmed by it. This is a tricky task, because you need to be like a chemist on how long, how many minutes, how many seconds, how much this part, how much that part.
And also, are you also working with challenging the audience a bit? Because sometimes something it's also good. As a spectator, I like that sometimes something is very long, and I'm forced to find something I watch, or to look closer. But it's always this, when does it become too much? And but do you also work with that?
Yes, because this is precisely the key. When it becomes too much that you find something else, then maybe you have found that's something else, and then I immediately move on. And then it is somehow playing a little bit with your perception. he's doing this thing over and over, or it's taking so long to go over there. What do I see? What do I feel? No, it helps you to dive a bit deeper also into yourself. And then the moment you reach that state, something else hits you. It's a bit like writing a script or writing a novel, and knowing at which page do I kill the character, at which page do we change the panorama of the scene. And to challenge is a fundamental part of it. It's not it's not pampering the audience, definitely not. It's not giving them what they want, but rather bringing them to experience something I would like them to experience.
And it's interesting because the colleague of ours who's working here right now, Joachim Fleischer, we had many years ago, we had an interview about, is there something like a visual dramaturgy? What is that? So because usually when we think about dramaturgical structures, we think about text, but there is something like a visual.
Definitely, I mean,
where you say, and it's a lot about what you were talking about time, about expecting something, about,
yes.
In creating visual things or pictures on images is the right word, sorry, images on stage, or like a body on stage which has its own rhythm. So I think it's very interesting to dive into that. There are also kind of rules, but they are not as well described as they are, for example, for actors.
Yes.
Or for text-based theater.
And the thing with rules, I always like to look back to composers, like Bach, for example, and he always made up a rule, and then at the end of the partita, he goes the opposite way. And that's what's intoxicating about his music, because you get used to something and then you break it. So it's this, again, this game of giving and taking into and entering the dialogue with an engaged audience and not a passive one. I think that is probably the thing I would dislike the most as an audience member, to have the feeling I passively received the performance. Because I think that's what theater can do much better than is many medias that we can consume at home easily, because theater is somehow I'm seeing another person and I'm connecting to something different, more that it has a physical impact on me, and I need to engage somehow.
You're kind of co-creator in theater as an audience member, I think.
Yes, I
in the moment of the performance, you're always part of the performance, if you want it or not, even if you like that. I mean, still,
yes,
you give an energy, and what you just said, it's. I think that the physical presence is something we share, and that's why we go to these weird black box places, because there's something to share for us.
Yes, I believe so too. You asked about memory.
Yeah, that was the other part. Time.
Yes, memory is a very difficult thing to work with, and yet I always end up back there somehow. I'm starting to think it has to do also with my roots. Being an Italian person, we deal with memory constantly. I think it's like this in many places in the world, but I perceive that it's not just traditions, but you just move out of your home in Italy, you have history, you have past all around you, because of the buildings, because of the cities, because of the floor in the cities. It is different than walking around in Asia, for example, where everything is rebuilt in a matter of days and it's broken new. In Italy, you cannot do this. You're always forced to face the past. And what do you do with it now? We cannot break it. We cannot, because we need to offer it to the new generations. They need to be able to see the past. So then, in a matter of more abstract work, I always end up back to looking at music. How does music do it? They work a lot with memory. They play the melody of a symphony, and then after a certain amount of minutes of the development of the theme, they go back to the theme. This is producing you a memory feeling. Of course, you can do the same with choreographic material, but there are other things maybe that are more complex that we can work on in theater, like the elements or the space, or how you move back to a certain spot constantly or not, or you keep moving away from it. So to work with memory also as a stage element, as a dramaturgical layer, also in the origin of the work. When we talk about DERMA has everything to do with memory. It's all about memory and how we deal with remembrance.
I found a very nice quote in your creative diary, and this links a bit with what you said about memory, because you said what you're trying to achieve with your work is a collage of the subconscious. So that means making something visible, which usually isn't visible for us in our everyday life. Yes. Can you describe a bit how you work on that? I mean, dance is a very strong instrument for this, I suppose.
Yes, yes.
And so, how do you think this? How do you create this process of making things visible, which are usually hidden?
I think a good part of it is to make something that maybe has a logical progression, and then break it apart and piece it back together. Because we do have a logical progression also in our subconscious, but it's not going most likely in a direct line, but it takes turns. And sometimes already at the start of a thought or a feeling, you know already how it's going to end. We have this many times when we meet people, and on the first meeting, you know, I like this person. But then maybe we can say life gets in the way, or consciousness gets in the way. They didn't do this thing, or they seem a bit rude because they didn't open the door for me, or things like this. You start analyzing the person from a conscious point of view. And this subconscious feeling then is like questioned. But then maybe later in life, you actually realize, yeah, I was right, this is a very good person. This is a very stupid example just to explain that many times the feeling, the perception, the deeper layer of human perception of life goes in not a linear way. I also prefer books, movies that follow a more erratic way of telling a story, jumping back and forth, showing me things that I don't quite understand why they're there, but I will understand later. This riddle makes me very interested in keep watching. So the process is sometimes very difficult, especially being by myself. Sometimes I have to dive very deep. It's a bit like Kafka said, with this, you are the knife with which I carve inside myself. Dance is that knife for me many times. And sometimes I'm helped with having the dancers. So then the dancers also become a projection. And I can also, as brutal as it sounds, a little bit search inside them and grab something out. And usually as a performer, you're very happy this happens because you have a lot to say and you cannot always say it. So to have somebody sitting across that takes it out of you. Well, now I am sitting across myself. So sometimes this brutality I need to adopt is hard. And sometimes as a performer, I reject the brutality myself imposing. So yeah, that's a little bit what the process is for this. And usually in general, I look at the dramaturgy of the piece once the piece is more or less done. And that's always the moment where dancers hate me the most because I start changing drastically. Because I see it makes too much sense. and therefore becomes boring. I need the act of surprise. I need the elements of questioning. Why is this happening? In order for the audience again to engage and reach a bit deeper.
This is really interesting because sometimes, I'm sure you know that well, you see a performance and you have the feeling when you leave the performance, I understood everything, but if you would try to explain to somebody what was happening, you can't. Because it just happened on another layer of perception, but you know that it's true, because maybe it links in a way to your subconscious. I don't really know how it works, but still it's a miracle. And yeah.
Like Forsyth said, I think nobody knows. Nobody really knows what works.
Yeah.
You just follow a feeling. It's like when once it's like following a feeling. Again, we go back to memory. It's like many times in psychoanalysis we say you're chasing a feeling from your childhood, and that's why you end up in certain behavior patterns or relationship patterns with the world around you. It's the same in creation. You end up sometime finding something in a certain creation, and then I chase the feeling I had as I was making it, which then leads me to hopefully make something that goes into that direction. If that makes any sense beside inside my own head.
Yeah. And it's always when we think about memory, the first impulse is to think that's something that happened to me, but it's not. It's something that you remember in a certain way, how it happened to you, or you try to reactivate it, that to get this feeling that you had at the time. So we're working with our memories all the time.
Yes.
They're not stable, or they're quite fictional.
Yes, there are 3 quotes that are really guiding me through the process. One is from Ocean Wong. He says in the book, memory is a choice. That his mother told him, memory is a choice. You choose to remember. Then another one is from neurologist Rosalind Cartwright, who said, memory is a creative act. This is very important for me. Memory is a creative act. It doesn't exist that you can remember something exactly as it happened. It is impossible. Because there are too many emotions linked to a human experience. Any human experience. Even having a coffee in the morning is linked to an emotion that you've had because you slept bad that night, because it's too cold in the apartment, because you have so many things to do, you're stressed, or you're very happy, you're on holiday. So you will never remember that coffee exactly as it was. It is impossible for you to detach. So remembering something is a creative act. And then again, Ocean Wong, who says, actually, memory is a flood. We're not always capable of deciding, I will remember now, or most importantly, I will not remember that. Sometimes it just hits you. And this is also something I'm working on, this feeling for the performer, for the performer to be hit by the memory, not being able to cope with it or look the other way, and for the audience to maybe feel that somehow. I've had that once in 2023. I made a performance for my about the death of my grandfather. And I remembered we had 7 sold-out shows at the ballet, and then the only day I felt, okay, we did something right, was an audience member came to me and said, my father died about a year ago. That's exactly how I felt.
There's one aspect in your work and also in choreographic work as general, which I find very interesting, regarding the links to theater of animated forms or puppetry. And there's a theater scientist from France. She described that, I hope that the translation in English is quite okay, working on one's own foreign body. And she said, well, you have that in puppet object theater. The foreign body is the other body, so the artificial body or the not human body. But she says it's very interesting that in new forms of performance or dance, it can also be, the foreign body can be part of your own human body, which sounds a bit bizarre at first sight, but I think it's pretty true. I don't know, can you link to that, or is that something
many times. I also use that as a choreographic tools many times. Dancers have heard from me many times, do it as if it's happening to you. You're not actually doing this. Something else is doing it. Or I like to say, now your foot is taking over and decides he wants to go that way. Or your hand, or your head, or your hips. This creates always like, it helps me produce a struggle inside maybe, or a search, which is also very important for me in my work. Yes, in this case also with DERMA, I am extremely experiencing this because I try to constantly detach. Either as a creator, I'm giving myself material, and then as a performer, I have to produce said material in a sense of reproduce. And then I film myself, and then I watch myself, and I judge, correct myself as if another body.
Yeah. Okay.
So there is a constant detachment and reattachment, a little bit like a Frankenstein version of myself. I keep de-animating and reanimating my own body.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as we talked about how to make visible subconscious parts of ourselves or somebody else's self, it's also this, when there's a part of your body which seems not to belong to you, you have kind of the conscious and subconscious part on stage. You can see it because there's still the whole person there, of course. Your leg is not walking away without you.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see, but I think not.
Maybe in the future.
Who knows? But still, you have, when you watch that, for you, it's pretty clear there are two things going on at the same time.
Yes.
And as you said, when we're in our everyday life, we think there's just this one layer, but the second one or third, or how many layers we ever have, but there's always other things going on at the same time.
This again links back for me to the title. This is a deeper layer of the skin, and I'm trying to get a little bit under the skin, like we say. So yeah, it is a foreign body, always, I find. And I think as a dancer, you have to reinvent your body every day. And the moment you lose that desire, you will lose a certain level of artistry or quality, because curiosity in this profession of dance is everything.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to see DERMA in December.
Thank you.
And it was really a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure entirely.
And so we are happy for everyone who will join us, because, as we said, we need the audience as a partner.
Yes. Always.
Always.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.